a Dark Chiefs and Cyclones fan. This former Cyclones cornerback was an undersized superstar. My name is AJ Caldwell. Welcome back to Cyclone Kingdom. Cornerbacks, safeties, and then the top 5 lists are finished. Appreciate you guys sticking through this top 5. The offseason is fun for these types of things. So make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. We got a lot of fun things rolling out in the coming weeks of season previews, of going through week by week. What's Iowa State's record going to be? What's the Chiefs' record going to be? Stay tuned for all of it. But before we get to that, some evergreen, all-time discussions, and we're on cornerbacks. Now, a distinction, a caveat. If you followed anything over at Cyclone Central, go check us out over there, our exclusive Iowa State podcast with me and my boy Owen. You have to make a caveat of who is a corner and who is a safety, because the jury is still out on some of these guys. If you've seen our podcast about the top 5 corners in Cyclone history, Owen and I had some banter back and forth about who's a corner and who is an actual safety. So let me make this disclaimer. LaMarcus Hicks is not on this top 5 cornerback list. Gasp! But he's a top 5 safety in my opinion, because all the stats have him listed as a safety, whereas for other people, some stats they look up have him listed as a cornerback. So take that for what you will, but know that LaMarcus Hicks is a top 5 secondary player for me, just not at the cornerback position. Let's just put that out there. Number 5 on the list is a guy that started on special teams and someone that deserved and earned everything that was given to him, because he came in as a punt return specialist, as a guy that would try to block punts, as a guy that just kind of did the dirty work and blocked people so that punt returners could have their time in the sun. And by the end of his career, was not only a starting cornerback for Iowa State football, but ended up being a 3rd-round draft pick. Yes, for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't like that he's not on the Chiefs. Darian Porter. The story of this guy and what he did from his freshman year to his senior year is the stuff of legends. To go from doing the dirty work of blocking people on a punt, of basically having no stats about you whatsoever, to being a senior on the national stage, in the Cyhawk game, on the Big Ten on CBS national 3:30 game, and gain a pick to transform that game. I had turned it off, guys. Full confession, I had turned off that Cyhawk game because here we go again. I was going to run away with it. And Darian Porter said, not today. Not today. He ended up finishing with 2 picks. The second pick was on the last gasp Hail Mary, but it still is in the stat sheet as 2 picks against Iowa. So we love that for him. Darian Porter is a special talent. He's a special talent. The reason he's number 5 on this list, the reason he's in an all-time cornerback discussion, is because of the talent that he was, being transformed into an NFL prospect, where he's now CB1 for the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, as a Chiefs fan, I don't like that, but as an Iowa State guy, I love it to see him in a starting role on an NFL team. Darian Porter, we see you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being a Cyclone and for doing the dirty work so that you could finally get your time in the spotlight. Number 4 on the list is a guy that during the 2022 season, when Iowa State went 4-8, where they had this terrible offense, and yes, we beat Iowa, but we didn't do much else after that. And the offseason after that was the gambling stuff. Like, it was a dark time for Iowa State football. This guy was a bright spot. TJ Tampa. Also an NFL draft prospect. Also a guy who's gotten some run with all the injuries to the Ravens last year. He took away a side of the field, guys. He was a lanky cornerback that quarterbacks wanted nothing to do with. He was that good and could make the open field tackle and could take away the deep ball. I mean, he could do everything. He could do everything. And that 2022 season, if you pair that defense with any great offense Iowa State had during the Purdy era or during the Rocco Becht era, it's one of the best teams of all time. They might lose like once. That defense was that good. It was top in the Big 12. It was top 25 nationally. Like, it was an unreal defense that nobody remembers and nobody even thinks about because Iowa State went 4-8. I appreciate TJ Tampa. I think that his talent all time from a defensive perspective, he might be in a top 10 all-time defensive players list if we were ever to do one of those for Iowa State. So I think that there's so much that he could do, and it's been proven by him becoming an NFL draft prospect and being on a team like the Ravens that prides himself on defense and still says, hey, there's a spot for you on this team. So shout out to TJ Tampa and being just Tampa Island out there, man. You talk about Revis Island. Tampa Island was what it was at Iowa State. Number 3 on the list, the undersized superstar. One of my favorite Matt Campbell guys, Brian Peavy. He was an all Big 12 player his senior season at 5'9", guys. His freshman year, his sophomore year, we talked about this on Cyclone Central as well. There was a discussion about whether or not Brian Peavy was a liability. What are we going to do with this guy? He's undersized, can't cover anybody, missing tackles. This is a disaster. He stuck it out. He was a part of that transformative 2017 team that goes down in Cyclone football history as the transformative team in program history. Brian Peavy was a part of that. He stuck it out. He trusted the process. He went through and paid his dues so that his senior year, he was one of the core guys in that defense. You talk about Marcel Spears. You talk about the guys on the front line of the Jaquan Baileys and the Uwazurikes. Like, yeah, they were great, but Brian Peavy, I mean, the dude was a superstar his senior year. You're not all Big 12 for nothing. Oh, the Big 12 doesn't play defense. Yeah, jack squat, dude. The Big 12 played a heck of a defense. Enough so that Alabama and Georgia and other people were trying to model John Hancock's defense. Brian Peavy played a key role in that because you can't have a 3-3-5. You can't have a good defense without guys who can cover, regardless of their size, regardless of how strong they might be. What kind of heart do you have? What kind of character do you have to stick it out? I love Brian Peavy for that. Number 2 is a guy that, man, he gets lost in the shuffle because there was nothing else around him. And that's all due respect to Austin Arnaud and Alexander Robinson and Paul Rhodes and those guys. But there was not too much else to look at in terms of Iowa State defense except for number 2, Leonard Johnson. Borderline an All-American one season, guys. Like he was on a cover of a college football preview magazine. Leonard Johnson was. That's how good he was. Like, back in the day, that was huge for Iowa State fans. They didn't have anything going for him except Leonard Johnson. Like, he's a special player in Cyclone history. And from an NFL standpoint, when you get 3 different contracts as an NFL player, you're doing something right. And Leonard Johnson, going from the Jets to the Cardinals to, I think it was the Bills or somebody else, like, he went from team to team because he was that valuable. Because he did that much for his squads. That came from Iowa State. That came from being a part of Gene Chizik and then Paul Rhodes. I mean, that's a lot to go through. That's a lot to go through as a Cyclone football player. But Leonard Johnson went through it, and all credit to him because he was a superstar. Like, he was a guy that, when you talk about All-Americans, and there's 3 teams of All-Americans. So you're talking about the top 66 players in America. Leonard Johnson was in that discussion. In an area of time where Cyclone football was barely winning 6 games. You got to be doing something spectacular to do that, and Leonard Johnson was that guy, both in college and in the NFL. But number 1 on the list is a guy that made his name mainly in the NFL. Was a part of one of the greatest dynasties maybe in sports history. But his roots come from Ames, Iowa, and Cyclone Nation. Ellis Hobbs, baby. Ellis Hobbs was the guy in the NFL that everyone looked to and said, that's Iowa State. That's what Iowa State football is right now. Is Ellis Hobbs CB1 for the New England Patriots. He was still that guy at Iowa State, guys. He just wasn't CB1 dynasty-changing Ellis Hobbs yet. He wasn't this core piece that was with Teddy Bruschi and Rodney Harrison and Richard Seymour. He was just another guy. He was another guy at Iowa State that didn't really get the recognition that people felt like he deserved. All Big 12 player, played from 2001, 2004, right sandwich in between that great era of Cyclone football with Dan McCarney. Ellis Hobbs could ball, man. He could ball. And no one really knew how much he could ball until he proved in the NFL and was a centerpiece and a core secondary piece of one of the greatest sports runs ever. I mean, when we talk about the Brady Belichick Patriots, like, that's one of the greatest sports runs ever. And Ellis Hobbs wasn't just this practice squad guy. He was a starting cornerback for that team. We appreciate Ellis Hobbs. Ellis Hobbs, Iowa State. Those Sunday Night Football introductions, right? Like, that was what Cyclone fans looked to and said, man, he's representing Cyclone Nation well. And he started the trajectory of Brock Purdy and Breece Hall and Dave Montgomery and Xavier Hutchinson and Jaden Higgins and Will McDonald, and the list goes on. The list goes on of guys that are representing Cyclone Nation in the NFL now, but it all got started with Ellis Hobbs, baby. So he's number one just because of what he did at Iowa State and with the Patriots. And there you have it. The top 5 cornerbacks in Iowa State history. We got one more left. Top 5 safeties coming to you this week. But right now, who's too high? Who's too low? Who did I forget about? I'm sure there's some old timers. They're like, this guy was unbelievable. And I'm sure there's some guys on that list as well. So let me know in the comments down below who you would have in the top 5 cornerbacks in Iowa State program history. We love these lists. We love the off season. There's no off season around here. Even though we love the time off, we're rolling out videos for you guys to get you prepped for Cyclone football and the beginning of the Jimmy Rogers era. As always, roll clones. And how about those Chiefs?